that kind of brings me to your final year of NCAs. And I know we're going through this like sequentially, but I also want people to know you, which I think is
Yeah.
cool. And you've probably done this on another podcast, but it's cool to see like the entire arc of how
Hmm.
someone goes from like star high school athlete to trials and tribulations of college, which is a constant for anyone that goes to college, but
Yeah.
especially for athletes and especially for female runners. There's like this thing, and I don't mean to call it females, but just like there are weight issues, there are like
Yeah.
pressure issues, there's different training, there's like your body's going through different things at the same time. So dudes also blow it in college too, but you like fight through all these things to get to your final year, your fifth year at it at Arkansas, and I think you're a little banged up too at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah. So I'm coming off of 2017 when I got second, which was huge. That
Hmm.
was a huge breakthrough. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you just missed out," but it was no. I mean, I was stoked. I was
Yeah.
riding this high, and definitely a big breakthrough. And it was kind of like, okay, I'm back, you know. And then going to cross country season, I have a pretty solid cross country season, nothing crazy. And then indoors, as soon I go home for just for winter break, you know, like anybody else, and my knee just starts
Yep.
hurting. Like literally just like every run I go on, I'm like, why does my knee hurt? You know? And then I get back to Arkansas and see the trainers and they're like, oh, I think you just have like it's something in your like patella tendon, like, you know, maybe
Hmm.
it's like tendonitis, like we'll take a look at it. And ended up being like pretty bad. But I didn't have another red shirt, so I was like, well, I'm gonna run indoors, like I'm just gonna run through it, which was stupid and no one should ever do that. But I did, and I kind
Right.
of limped
Good
my
lesson.
way.
We just found another lesson.
Yeah,
You're
don't run through
don't
an injury. But I kind of like limped my way through that indoor season, and I actually ended up getting third at NCAA's.
Mhm.
And then I was just like, I hated that. You know, I was like, I don't like running pain. Like, I want to be.
Right.
I'm not running again until I'm pain free, and I've
That's
said
cool.
that to my coaches and trainers. And I was like, I don't care that it's my last track season. Like, but this isn't fun, you know. And so I kind of like put my foot down, and then it kind of put pressure on the trainers and doctors to like figure out and find a solution. And ended up taking until April to
Wow.
actually figure it out, which I think is so lucky. You know, like indoors is
Yeah.
like it was 2 months of just like figuring it out, and then kind of taking time off and cross training here and there. And right when I figured it out was kind of like my last chance to get a mark in to like race at regionals. And I was like, I just remember being like, "Can I race at conference?" You know, to my head coach, and he's like, "I don't know, Nikki. Like, you have a good shot at like getting a contract, and I don't want you to go out there and run like
Mm.
some slow time that like kind of turn companies like turn
Yeah,
away."
like
You know,
devalues what you'd
exactly.
created in the previous years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I can do it. I was like, what time makes regionals? He's like 4:24. I was like, okay, 4:24 bus. Like I can do it. And I just remember going to a conference, and it in the 1500 you have prelims, like you have a prelim and then a final. And I was just like, okay, here I don't know if I'll be able to run in the final, but like I'm gonna run 4:24 in this prelim right now. And prelims are always kind of tactical and slow, and 4:24 is
Yeah.
kind of an aggressive time, but
Yep.
I just remember like Carissa Schweizer was in my prelim, and she's someone that always likes to make it honest. And it was just kind of the stars aligned, and she was just running 4:20 pace, you know. And I just remember sitting on her tail, and then with 200 to go, and it was so funny because it's just a prelim, right? Like no one really
Right.
cares. Like top five make the final, and
Yeah.
it's at SEC where like the distance isn't really like SEC is more about the sprints, you know. And so, but all my teammates knew what I was trying to do, you know. They're like,
Yeah.
this is her
And they're
shot to make
cheering
it.
for you like
And
crazy,
so,
and people are like, "What is going on?" What?
everyone's on the fence like, go Nikki, like, screaming out the splits. And then with the last 100, I like swing wide, go around Carissa. And like the announcers are like, what's going on? Like, this is the prelim, not the final, right?
You know?
And then I crossed the line, run like 4:21, and it felt like I had just like won nationals, I was like, I did it.
Oh, I love it.
And then
4:24 or bust.
all my teammates were like, yeah, and then even Carissa, like, she knew what was going on, and she was like, dude, you're amazing, And then the next meet was regionals, and it was kind of the same thing. It's like, okay, top five make it to the next round of regionals, and it was just kind of like, well, I made it this far, like, and at that point you don't have to hit times don't mean anything. It's just place.
Right.
So I remember being in like kind of a tactical heat, and I was just sitting in third, and then got second, made it to the next round, and then I'm in the next round. And if you're top 5 there, you make it to nationals. And I was like, why stop now? Just keep.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because my fitness was not there. I had been cross training, like just like barely even cross training, like.
Right.
And it was just pure like belief in myself that I just like wanted to prove that I could do it. And that was just also a huge lesson, like how much just believing that you can.
Hmm.
And so I was like top 5, made it to nationals, and I was, I think, second in my heat, and it was like, wow, I just punched my ticket to Hayward Field, and it was like
So cool.
kind of I was like, this is it, that's gonna be my last race, and it's kind of where my career started.
Yep.
And then once I was there, same thing, you have a prelim and then a final. And in the prelim, I was like,
Are
this
you
is,
getting fitter though every week?
yes,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, because
Oh, definitely. So there's like
yeah.
2 weeks in between each of these where I'm just getting fitter, right? Like, and
Right.
I feel like a lot of people at this time in the season are maybe burnt out because they've been going since
Yeah.
indoors or whatever. And so I was kind of on the up and up, and I feel like maybe my teammates were like plateauing or even like,
Hmm.
kind of getting a little burnt out. So it was cool to just be like, I'm only going up from here. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, at nationals, I made the final, and I was just like, we're here, and this is a year earlier. I was in this final, and I was 0.02 away from the win, and ever since that day, I was like,
Wow.
I want to be back in this final, and I want to go for the win. And like my journey may not have looked like what I thought it would, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm here. This is it. This is a year later, and I'm back in this final. And I just remember I knew it was gonna be really tough. Like that year was loaded. You had Jess Hull, you had Elise Cranny,
Hmm.
you had a bunch of really good girls in that final, and a lot of Jessica Harris was this girl that really liked to run from the front, who made it really honest, and then you had all these kickers in it, so it was like this is
Yeah.
gonna be the hardest race of your life. I just remember getting in the race and just being like, let's just see what happens, and
Yeah.
I think with a lap to go, I kind of went with the leaders. 200 to go, I kind of put myself in position, and then with 100 to go, I just like all out kicked, and Jess Hull ended up beating me at the line, and
Oh.
I was second again, but
Yeah.
it was
It's
cool.
all right.
It felt like a victory, even though I was second. It was like, wow, if you just like, that's what I love about the 15 too. Like anything can happen. Like I had no business being top
Yeah.
3 or second, and it was just like you just have
But
to
there's
if you're
something about momentum and
yeah
believing in it and something you were building over those previous 6 weeks. Because I think it was only like 6 weeks, wasn't it?
yeah
Or
yeah
2 months? So that's the part that I think you're glossing over. And it was just for me, that was when I was really introduced to your journey, where you're 2 months out, you just figured out your knee thing and you're starting to get healthy. And I think we were connected by, well, went from Gruber. So, your high school coach is
yeah
always kind of looking over you, which I want to get back to that a little bit. But then McConville, your assistant the coach that you had earlier, is like, JT, she's kind of being dinged up, but like, I think she has a chance to get a pro contract, but I don't know how she's going to do these next few weeks. Like, will
yeah
you just talk to her and try to figure this out? And I think your parents were advocating for it too. They wanted you to figure out what was going to be your next step after Arkansas, because it could have been done, I think, at any week at that point too.
yeah
Like your
yeah
season
exactly.
might have ended.
hmm
So you and I started talking, and I just had so much fun watching the last 6 weeks, because it was like
yeah
we'd talk the next week and be like, "Oh yeah, I qualified. I'm on to the next round." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? Like you weren't even running a few weeks ago. You were in the pool or you were on the elliptical or whatever it was, like
right
no impact training." And you just like kept building this momentum, and eventually we got you connected to
yeah
Howie Management, Mev's brother. And then he and I would have all these great conversations when he was at NCAAs, watching you get out of prelims and semis and the finals and stuff like that. So
yeah
uh, I think you underplayed a little bit of, and maybe people don't really understand how little fitness you had leading into SECs and into NCAA regionals and
right
then to the finals and then taking second again. It was such a cool run. And that's when I was like, oh my God, this girl's something special. Like when I started to
Yeah.
get excited about the potential of what you could do in any final, whether it's going to be U.S. Olympic trials in 2021 or beyond. You have a nasty, dangerous kick, and something I really wish I had. So, and that takes you to second place in NCAA's 2 years in a row, and that's a contract usually.
Yeah.
What happens after that? Who'd you sign with? How'd
Yeah.
it work
So
out?
no, that was a really awesome. It was just like it felt so full circle, because it was like all of a sudden, all these people had helped me kind of navigate where I was going to go to college, right? Like Gruber,
Mm,
Scotty, and then it was, right when my college career is ending, they're like, okay, like we have her back, like what's
that's
next,
cool.
and they're like, oh, we know this guy JT, and like he has connections, and then I remember calling you and being like, yeah, what do I do? Like, what's your
What
advice?
do I
And it
do?
was, yeah, and it was so cool. It was like these pivotal people in my life, like these coaches, like have
Yeah.
always had my back, and it was really exciting. And I remember talking to Howie the night before the final, I think, because I was like pretty sure I was going to sign with him. And he was like you said, he's like, anything you do tomorrow, like it's just like you're gonna get a contract, but like anything you do is just gonna like elevate it. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it
No
was like,
pressure, Nikki.
yeah,
Thanks.
no
Thanks.
pressure. Just go for the win. Yeah. I was like, okay. uh no, but then I remember I make, I get second, and then we all go out in Eugene, and it's like this crazy party scene, and all
Yeah.
these runners are there, and it's a good time. And then the very next morning I meet Howie for breakfast. I'm just like super hungover, and I just sign
I love this
sign with
part.
him, and um,
I'll
he's
send
like,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. I'm like, let's go. And so from there it was just kind of like he just like really went to bat for me again. And it's like,
Yep.
it was kind of, that's kind of a crazy 2 weeks, because you have NCAA's, and then 2 weeks later of USA's. It's all of a
Right.
sudden you go from a college kid racing college kids to racing pros. And it was 2018, so there was no team on the line.
Right.
But it's a USA title. It's
Yeah.
top three. It's a podium, and so that you kind of, a lot of people want to sign before that, just so you can like debut like your kit, or be like, I'm with this company,
Hmm.
blah blah blah. But for me, it was definitely a crazy 2 weeks, and was laying out all my options. And once again, I really wanted to join a good team and group, and because I'm not, I just know myself, and I know that I can't run well without that team environment, or like without
Right.
people pushing me every day. And so I was like, I just need training partners, and I need to get out of the South. It's been fun for 3 years, but I'm over it. And so that was kind of what I told Howie. I was like, look, I need training partners. I need to not be in Arkansas anymore. Uh,
Yep.
and yeah, I ended up choosing this group in San Diego that was just getting started. This world class coach was like, I had one conversation with him, Terrence Mahan, and it was kind of
Mhm.
like, yep, like a no brainer. Like, he's like, so do you want to move back to California? I was like, yeah, where? He's like, San Diego. I was like, perfect. He's like, so how do you feel about
Yeah.
How do you feel about Adidas? I was like, love them. He's like, perfect. I'm kind of
Yes.
associated with them, and that's what our group's going to be. And I was like, let's do it. And it felt, I feel like my whole career I've made decisions based off like my gut, and it just felt right at the time. And I was like, yep,
That's cool.
this is where I want to be. And then I moved to San Diego, summer of
Yeah.
2018.
That's so cool. And you really realized a lifelong dream, which is so wild. Like
Yeah,
you wanted to be a pro runner. You went through, different schools where maybe the Oregon route seems like you're going to go become this Nike athlete or something like that. And then you go to
yeah.
Arkansas and you make a bold move. And phew, gosh, it's so cool. And the one thing I do want to highlight is there is something that is so powerful. And it's not all coaches. There's some great coaches out there. My dad's a coach or was at Santa Clara. And I
Yeah.
know how he feels about his athletes. He's like, to be honest, he's walked one of them down the aisle,
Wow.
who came out of the closet and didn't have as positive an experience as you did with her parents. So he's like a pseudo father now.
That's
And so I've
awesome.
seen it. Like it is so awesome. And that's, they have that relationship. And I've seen it firsthand, but I've seen it with Gruber. And this is turning into a Gruber podcast, time and time again. in terms of like, Brett Coacher was going through kind of a transition out of, away from coaching and coming back to Santa Cruz. And he's like, JT, can we work something out for Brett? Let's see if we can get him some support. He will not let his athletes go to an
No,
extent.
never.
It's like
Yeah.
seeing them all the way through. And Scotty's very much the same way. They take it very personally in terms of like the familial environment. And
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And
it's really special. I mean, I feel like you guys are really lucky to have that. And I don't and thank it's to all the coaches out there that do that, that take like the time and the thing of like not saying, oh, you graduated high school, it's done. Dane
right.
works for us at Soul Focus because of them too. It's like, oh, Dane needs a job, hire him. It's like, geez, coach, like
I know.
everything.
I'm like,
But
how are
I
you
feel
so selfless?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's definitely I mean, I do know there are a lot of good coaches out there, but I think that is unique and definitely very something I'm very grateful for. And Gruber's kind of with every decision I've made, like I go to him because I trust him so much. And in high school he was like, don't go to this college because of this. And it was like, I was like, yep, okay, like no questions asked. And it was
right.
like, and then kind of when I was going pro, he's like, well, I don't know about this place or this coach. I was like, yep, okay, like, and we have
That's
a
cool.
conversation about it. And yeah, so he definitely has a lot of people's backs, and it's really, and it's not just me, right? Like it's not just like the
Yeah.
stars, it's anyone.
No,
You
it's
go to
everyone. Yeah.
practice, you have no idea who's the star. He treats everyone the same. And
That's right.
I think that's really special too.
Yeah. And he hosts one of the best Christmas beer miles in Santa Cruz County
Definitely.
ever.